What is this? Linux can't stop winning. What? What is this? What do you have for me?
Operating systems.
True.
The brains behind your computer. The world runs on the big three, and while two of them spend the economy of a small nation to produce liquid trash and inject ads into your start menu, the humble, free...
Did I see this? No, it's only a day ago. Sorry, his videos are blending together in my head.
and open source Linux has only been growing in market share, with start menu. The humble, free, and open source Linux has only...
I love this chart. I love this chart. It's like, oh, how's it gonna grow? Just fucking make it up.
Been growing in market share, with no fancy headquarters, no money spent on marketing, and no gimmicks. 2025 has been the year Linux has gone mainstream, and the first place Linux has taken a big W is gaming. Linux sucks for gaming is an opinion that used to be very true. If you're a person that still uses Facebook, Linux gaming has made massive...
What are we looking at here? Is this, I think this is Unity, I reckon. So it's got to be like Ubuntu, what, like 13.10, something like that? It was sales in billions, the chart. Yes, but it was also going to 2032, a year that hasn't happened.
Strides in the past 5 years. The primary driver for this being the Steam Deck. Released by Valve in 2022, it shipped with an Arch distribution called SteamOS. As of 2024, the Steam Deck owns almost 50% of the handheld PC gaming market, selling over 3.7
To be fair, it kind of made a handheld PC gaming market. There were other handhelds before that, but like no one really, they were all like fairly niche devices. They're like, oh, look at this Kickstarter, look at this Indiegogo. Let's make something cool. But when the Steam Deck came out, it created a whole like device class of gaming handhelds.
In units, and recent benchmarks show that it's crushing Windows and handheld performance. But if you spent your redundancy check on a gaming PC, you don't have to worry too much. Gabe and his team quietly cooked up Proton in 2018, which is a compatibility layer for Linux to run Windows games.
One thing I always love to remind people of is the reason why we have DXVK. So the author of DXVK, to be specific, of the DirectX 11 part of DXVK, he wanted to play Nier Automata. His sole purpose of creating that functionality was getting Nier Automata to work on Linux. So he made a compatibility layer that would take the DirectX 11 calls and then convert them into Vulkan. Now, as for the DX9 stuff... Actually, I think it was DX10, DX11. As for the DX9 stuff, the author for that one was told, that's impossible, you can't do it. So they did it to spite them. They did it to spite the person who said that it was impossible to make this work. And then Valve ended up hiring both of these people and merging those projects into DXVK as a part of Proton. And I believe they both still work for Valve to this day.
Open source, by the way. This exploded the Linux gaming library by giving access to most AAA games. And with community-led websites like ProtonDB, you can quickly check which games work and how to tweak them to work perfectly. Linux has already doubled their PC gaming market share compared to Apple, which, to be fair, isn't much of a flex. As things stand, Linux gaming isn't perfect by any means. There are issues with stability and not being able to play games with anti-cheat, but that's a...
You want to talk about those issues? Speaking of issues... Let's see if the game opens. Let's find out. It's not going to open. Let's just let it do its thing. Speaking of issues, my favorite issue that I don't know what the issue is. I wish I knew what it was, because then we could play the game. Fingers crossed. It's not going to work. I'm well aware it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? I don't know. Couldn't tell you. Launching? It always launched at this point. This was never a problem. I don't know why that happens. I have no idea. Couldn't tell you.
Sacrifice I'm willing to make than having to deal with the Apple Store or having to turn off ads in my own operating system. Another unusual place Linux is making gains is the government. In 2025, Denmark just announced they're moving their entire government off Windows onto Linux and the LibreOffice.
Use Proton G or something? You don't think that's one of the things I tried? I love how Gaben developed DirectX at Microsoft and supported the compatibility layer for it on Linux. Absolute based Gaben.
France is moving 100,000 computers in their police department to Linux, and an entire German state is moving off entirely from Microsoft Windows, the Office Suite, and Azure onto the base stack, otherwise known as Linux, LibreOffice, and German-hosted servers. This isn't the first time governments have made massive pushes for Linux. The Indian government and defense has been a power user of Linux for years, so much so that they've created 2 of their own distros. China, the United States, Finland, and North Korea, yes, you heard that right, all use Linux in some capacity. But why? It's free. That's why.
This is true.
Fundamentally, Linux doesn't cost anything to set up and use. It's also free of spyware, telemetry, or whatever Apple cooks up behind closed doors. On top of that, the EU as a whole is pushing for more data sovereignty and finds it kind of sketchy.
To be fair, this is a community project that is not actually anything serious just yet.
Or data sovereignty, and finds it kind of sketchy that only 2 big tech companies can own your entire infrastructure from your operating system to the cloud.
Hey, no, there's 3. There's Amazon. Don't forget about them. They're very important as well.
Linux, governments own the long-term success of a platform, how they want to configure it and maintain it, which is another space Linux can't stop winning. Versatility. Linux is hard. Linux is complicated.
Very
Linux
hard.
doesn't have software support. That
True.
used to be the case back when Joe...
What the fuck? I have never seen Joe Rogan this young. What the Sorry, a part of my brain just assumes that Joe Rogan has always been bald and always been old. I have never seen Joe Rogan with hair. What the fuck is this? How old is he at this point? He's got to be like probably 30s at most, yeah? Joe Rogan had hair. He did have hair at some point. Because this is when it was still called Ultimate Fighting. So it was even before it was called the UFC. I don't know what year this was.
Hard. Linux is complicated. Linux doesn't have software support. That used to be the case back when Joe Rogan still had hair. But even Arch, yes, the notoriously hard to install Arch Linux, comes with an official installer that takes less than 5 minutes. Linux has made massive moves in versatility. It can be as simple as loading up Mint on a USB stick, or building from scratch every time using Gentoo if you live on a farm. You can rice Linux to the point where each pixel is rendered how you want it to be.
New season airs very soon.
Or you can run Pop! OS without even touching the terminal. Companies like System76 and Framework already ship Linux out of the box. And more mainstream companies like Dell have started to take notice, shipping...
What do you mean started? Yeah, they've been selling the XPS 13 developer edition for years now.
XPS 13 with Ubuntu. Hardware companies like Intel, Nvidia, and AMD needed a new way to virtue signal, and all support open source drivers for their hardware now as well.
Not correct. NVIDIA has open source kernel modules, but the user space driver is still closed source.
Fundamentally, Linux is your operating system. You decide the journey, how easy and hard you want it to be, and with how Linux can't stop winning, picking it is becoming an easier choice as time passes. And so is picking Mobbin.com, the sponsor of today's video. It doesn't matter if you use Linux,
What is
Windows,
Mobbin?
or
Tell
Mac.
me about Mobbin.
If you're building, you need good design. Mobbin is the world's largest mobile and web design reference library, with thousands of user flows and screens referenced off industry-leading apps.
Okay, wait, that's actually a cool website.
Real-world design inspiration and stay up to date with the latest design trends across both mobile and web. Mobbin also comes with awesome natural language search so you can filter down by keywords, and an extensive list of categories so you can find the exact reference within seconds. Plus, you can store your favorite designs into a neat little collection, almost like a mood board. You can find me on Mobbin at BigBoxSui.
That's actually a really cool sponsor.
Use my link mobbin.com/BigBoxSui to give Mobbin a try for free and save 20% off Mobbin Pro. Thank you so much to Mobbin for sponsoring this video, and thank you for your time. I am Big Box.
Bye, Big Box. That was a pretty chill. Wait, what is this? Reacting to the Linux experience GNOME. Hold on, when was this video? When did this video come out? 3 weeks ago.
Operating.
I'm not going to watch it because it's like an hour long. It's a big box video. He didn't really say anything that out of the ordinary. But we like big box. Big box is fun. I reckon we got time for one more.